a new democratic South Africa. You remember the song that came, was it in the 80s? We Are the World? Yeah. When the musicians came together? Yeah. That is, we are the world of South Africa. Yeah. When all the musicians, they all participated. Someone coming with this, someone with that. People want Mandela. And when we look at this video, because it is the essence of this man, that who he is and what he represents. That's why we're fortunate that they did not kill him. In fact, they were saying that they made a mistake by not killing him early in life. Instead, they arrested him, sent him to jail. You know what happened to Stephen Biko? They vowed that to Stephen Biko they are not going to do the same mistake they did with Mandela. Because when they started thinking about killing Mandela, it was too late. He was already known all over the world. So they couldn't do that. So we were fortunate for that. And then when we look at that on our program, we are going to get to an item that is so important to us. Because when we talk about voting, I hear some people say, oh, my vote doesn't count. But each and every vote counts. If you are not voting, you are not counting. You already eliminated yourself. In other words, you have given someone a choice to represent you without you choosing that person. So I'm grateful here to announce this, our sister, our council lady, Mrs. Blackwell, who has been there with us in the trenches, in as much as her husband, Lushiri, oh my brother, he was there when it wasn't fashionable to talk about the ANC. They were out there sticking their necks out for us, for humanity. So, without any further ado, Councilwoman Blackwell, can you come with us? A hard-working council member, when you go to her office, you see people lining out outside. You can think that there are goodness that are being given in the office. You may even be when you are there and say, oh, let me join this line. Okay, get something. Oh, and then following council that one, now we stand this brother. This is the former chairman of the Dayas Commission on African and Caribbean Affairs, who has represented us very well in the city here. When Africans have problems, they go to him. He is our mayor in the city. That's it.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Brother Sitole, for the kind introduction. As always, I thank God for His blessings and for the privilege of being here with all of you. Certainly will ask our immediate past chairman and chairman emeritus of the Mayor's Commission on African and Caribbean Affairs to introduce all of you who are here from the commission and who will join us at Echoes of Africa on August 9th. But I'm here to say that it is a pleasure to join Brother Barnes this wonderful celebration of Nelson Mandela's birthday. And you know, I hear it's on the bottom of your program, his quote, "We can change the world and make it a better place. It is in your hands to make a difference." And I think that's why we are all here. As God gives us breath, we have to do our part to improve the quality of life for us all. And whether we were born here now, or whether we're born in Africa now, we know that we all come from the same blood, all humanity did. that we are all brothers and sisters. And during these times where we have so many men, you know, I've been reading a new Jim Crow book where Sister Alexander talks about slavery. The next challenge was Jim Crow, and now this challenge of mass incarceration. When so many of our men are in prison, they're been, once they're out, they have a record. You can't live even in BHA, you can't get a job, the record follows you, that the challenge continues. And the only way I know that we can make life better is if we realize that we have a unified struggle and that we all together can certainly try to pressure this system to change and make people have equal rights. It's not easy, it's been a lifelong struggle, but as we live and breathe, we have to continue. So again, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Brother Satoli, for inviting us. I always think of Lucian when I see him, because I met him through the late and great Lucian Blackwell many, many years ago. And I recently put up another one of my large, you'll see it in my office, a picture of a photograph of Nelson Mandela and Lucian and a lot of the congressmen, Dellums, and all of them who were there during that time and during the time of Nelson Mandela's freedom. So again, it's a pleasure to be with you, and without further ado, I'd like to thank Stan Straughter for all he does. It is true, whenever there are issues, somebody came to me about sister-city relationship with the country in Nigeria just yesterday, and we have so much that the struggle is great, but there's so many accomplishments we have because of Stan Straughter and his lifelong commitment to the struggle. God bless you, Stan. We love you, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you very much. I want everybody, before I introduce you, I want to thank Mrs. Satoli and the Philadelphia Red Cross, because we lost 4 children, African children, but we also have 47 families displaced. And the Red Cross and the direction along with Chad, the ambassador, helped to resettle those families. And the Red Cross helped Bartram and many, many places. So we still have to come together and raise some money for her. I want you to thank this wonderful lady for her commitment. Again, that's very much.
And I will say, as soon as I saw her, I said, when I knew they made you the social worker in charge, everything would be okay. Thank you, thank you.
Also, I ask the members of the commission that are here, please stand. Please, the lawyer, Reverend, Mr. Tony, the great Wilfred, Dr. We want to thank all of you for your contribution and the work that you do, because you're the individuals that make the commission great and help to carry out the work. So let me thank all of you. I wanted to just say, because of what David has said, we haven't yet framed the history of Philadelphia, the greatness of Philadelphia's history. And that's something we're going to have to do, to working together. So just within the context of the great Nelson Mandela, in 1976, the great Reverend Leon Solomon, when you talk about great people in the world, and great black men in particular, you got to talk about the great Reverend Leon Solomon. Because in 1976, it was the only black man in America on board with any major corporation, General Motors, if you remember. And at his first board meeting at General Motors, he said, y'all have to help to free Nelson Mandela and bring down apartheid in South Africa. This was in 1976. And I guess you know what they said, it's crazy. And he prevailed, and he worked hard, he taught us all. He said, nobody is free until this man is free. He struggled with General Motors, Chrysler, and forced them to divest. These were some of the first companies. They resisted for many, many years. And they did ultimately divest, but he went further. He crafted the Solomon principles against apartheid in South Africa. And even some South Africans didn't agree with him, but he prevailed. And he struggled and struggled, and it became a global movement along with many people, as we talked about. Then, of course, the greatness of Philadelphia arose again, because when we had the Free South Africa movement in the U.S. Congress, was the great Congressman, the late William H. Grady III, right here in Philadelphia. The Congress came together. They passed a bill for divestment. Any U.S. firm invested in South Africa, U.S. pension funds or whatever, we withdrawn from that fund. They passed that bill in the Congress, sent it to President Ronald Reagan. He vetoed the bill, and Bill Gray, Congressman Ron Dellums, the Congressional Black Caucus, overrode the President's veto and made that divestment bill. Then the great Philadelphia came again. Of course, the great late David B. Richardson, Jr., State Representative, became the chairman of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. And Dave took that bill, divestiture, and went to all of the states, 54 states in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and many even cities copied that bill, and that bill helped to continue to bring this divestment together movement to have all U.S. corporations divest. And of course, when the late great Congressman Lucian Blackwell went to Congress, he continued that work. And when Nelson Mandela came to the United States, one of the first cities he visited was Philadelphia, right here in the old Philadelphia Convention Center. And you see that picture on Danny's wall too, with Lucian and great leaders of our city. So we have a long history of struggle in our city in general, but specifically within the struggle for Free South Africa movement and the liberation and the freedom of the great Nelson Mandela. Of course, I don't want to leave out, and maybe y'all could talk about this before, because under Mayor Wilson W. Good's administration, when we first began to interchange and have exchange programs with Black South Africans to come work in the government. That's something Dave Richardson, Wilson Good, many leaders did at that time. They could come work in the water department, they could work in the taxi department, because the inevitability of blacks taking over South Africa, it was on the agenda. It took a minute, but it was on the agenda. And the idea was that our city, through our administrators and like administrators, would make this contribution and have them learn and work and do internships in all sectors of the city government, so that they can learn to run the government of the cities and the great nation of South Africa. So we have a lot. Dave, when you start that 2015 thing, I think you need to make sure you have somebody from Reverend Solomon's family, somebody from the great Congressman William H. Grady III's family, of course, our dear Representative Congressman Blackwell, and of course, David P. Richardson's family. And they should probably be honored at that time, because they were not just local leaders or national leaders, they were global leaders. Dave Richardson, Congressman Gray, and Congressman Blackwell traveled all over the world, And their work, I mean, it's still being on. I don't care where you're going to talk about Philadelphia, they're going to ask you about Dave Richardson, they're going to ask you about Congressman Gray, they're going to ask you about Congressman Blackwell, and of course, the great Reverend Leon Solomon. So we have a lot to be proud of in this city. We have our leaders, and all of you supporting the leaders, because those leaders wouldn't be good leaders unless they had your support, especially through the churches here, Zion, Bright Hope, all of the churches here, and even the mosque. So you all made a great contribution to the liberation of South Africa and the liberation of apartheid. But as the councilwoman says, the struggle continues. The struggle continues. We have to free every person. We have yet our next generation. I tell my I have 9 great-grandchildren. I tell them this now. The next level of our struggle is for us to free the world. You know what we have to fight for now? We have to fight for all people to have water to drink, quality air to breathe, and decent food to eat. The struggle for the most basic things in humanity, that's what our next generation has to fight for. Because you can't, not get a breather say. We don't even have decent water to drink. I mean, I'm 72 years old. Who would think we'd be drinking bottled water? I mean, it's almost unimaginable. Someone had the nerve to say, a corporate leader This is what our ancestors, our great young people were. This is what they had to fight for. Let me finally say, on August the 4th to the 8th of this year, the next couple weeks, President Barack Obama will meet with 47 African heads of states in Washington. They're coming to discuss the Obama agenda and his vision and the continuation of the work in Africa. He has already started a major initiative called the Young African Leadership Initiative, and it's called YALI, Y-A-L-I. He has 500 young African leaders from all over Africa and Washington and all over the country. They're going to schools. The idea is how do we impact with this next generation of leaders and also introduce them to this global struggle and the work that they have yet to do. So I think to his credit, he has started it. They've been accepted in Howard University, in Morgan, in Chicago State, all over the country. And if you ever get a chance to look at some, you may not see it in any of the mainstream papers, but you might see it in the Tribune or some of those papers about the great things these young people are doing, both here and in Africa when they go home. So I encourage you to stay in touch. Please be engaged with the movement of this next generation. They are making a significant contribution. You might not see it in the press, but they are engaged and they are in our community here. The commission, as you know, along with the Kofi Diabaté and this work that they're doing, we have nearly 50,000 African and Caribbean immigrants that live in the Philadelphia area now, from 35 different countries, and growing. So I was just with somebody the other day from Mauritius. I said, give me your name and address. Not the country there. So we have a large representation, and you wouldn't know, because why? As this woman said, we're the same people. We're all part of the same world. And so they come, they work, they pay their taxes, they want the same thing everybody else. They want their children to go to school, to get a good education, and all those things. So it's incumbent for us to continue working and bring all of those communities into our city. And I want to thank the Council Lady publicly for the work that she's done on behalf of the Commission and all the communities. I don't care if you're homeless, I don't care if you're temporarily out of a job, I don't care if you're a CEO. Everybody, Councilwoman Bacon is everybody's council, wherever they live, that they all come around and something. I want to thank you for all those